responsibility is to formulate the policies which the government has to implement. It has to implement in the form of policies, programs, schemes, projects, and so on. There are two key tasks of the Niti Aayog, mainly two responsibilities, two key tasks of the Niti Aayog. One is to act as Team India hub, that is comprising of the entire country. So the whole country should be one team, Team India hub, under which it leads the engagement of states with the central government. So there must be a wholehearted cooperation between the central government and all the states in the country. So they all should engage together. They all should come together and work for the economic development of the country. So that is one of the major tasks of Niti Aayog. And the other one is Niti Aayog should act as the knowledge hub. Okay, so for the country as a whole, from the point of view of economic development, it should act as a knowledge hub. Hub is the focal point, okay, and innovation, new developments. So it should act as both knowledge hub and innovation hub. So as knowledge and innovation hub, Niti Aayog builds the think tank capabilities. Okay, so it should think for the entire country. Of course, it will take the opinion of other entities also. It is not solely the responsibility of Niti Aayog. It is the main fulcrum. Okay, under which surrounding which there are other entities which will help. Now, who is the chairperson of Niti Aayog? It is the Prime Minister. At present, it is Shri Narendra Modi. And Vice Chairperson of Niti Aayog is Dr. Rajiv Kumar. He is an economist. Minister of State will be a member, Rao Inderjit Singh, at present, Minister of State, independent charge of the Ministry of Planning and Niti Aayog. Then full-time members are Professor Ramesh Chand, agricultural economist. He has visited GKVK several times in the recent past. Okay, he's an agricultural economist. He was there in Delhi. He was in IRI. He was in NCAP there. Okay, at present he is a member of Niti Aayog, Professor Ramesh Chand. Then Shri V.K. Saraswat is a scientist, especially with us in connection with missiles. And he was closely associated with the development of missiles like Prithvi, Dhanush, Prahar, and so on. Shri V.K. Saraswat. Then Dr. V.K. Paul is a doctor, pediatrician. Pediatrics is children specialist. Okay, those who deal with the diseases or well-being of the children. Pediatrics. He's a well-known researcher, Dr. V.K. Paul. Then Chief Executive Officer, Shri Amitabh Kant, a famous IAS officer of Kerala cadre of 1980 batch. Okay, he's the key driver of Make in India, all those slogans, okay, which enthusiast the entire country towards development. Make in India, Startup India, Incredible India, and Kerala. He was the one who coined Kerala as God's own country. Okay, so he's credited with all these slogans. Okay, now governing council of Niti Aayog, it consists of all the chief ministers of states and lieutenant governors of all union territories. Okay, this is the main team. To assist this team, there is a bigger paraphernalia will not go into details of all those things, who are all secretaries and all those things. Okay. Then Niti Aayog is based on the 7 pillars of effective governance. Okay. To it is not just enough if you develop all the plans. The implementation part is also equally important. And all these years, we were credited to be very good planners, but poor implementers of the projects. It should not be the case. That's why these are the 7 pillars for effective implementation of all the government schemes and projects. Okay, one, it should be pro people. Okay, all the policies, the projects, the schemes, and so on, they should be pro people. Uh, it fulfills the aspirations of society as well as individuals. So it should fulfill all the aspirations, whatever expectations are there of all the people individually as well as the society as a whole. Proactivity. It should not wait for something to happen. It should be proactive. Okay. So in anticipation of and response to citizen needs. Okay, you don't expect the citizens to come forward and tell everything. This we need, this we need this, and so on. So Niti Aayog should anticipate, it should expect what the citizens want. So, proactivity, participation, it should involve the citizenry. All the citizens should be involved in developing all the policy measures. Then, empowerment, women in all aspects. So women, it should aim at women empowerment. Then inclusion of all categories of the societies. Nobody should be left behind. SC, ST, OBC, minorities, Garib, Gaon, Kisan, everyone should be included in the development process of the country. Then equality, okay, of opportunity for the youth. So each and every youth in the country should have equal opportunity to participate in the economic development of the country. Then there should be transparency, making government visible and responsive. Okay, so it should be away from all types of corruption. So these are the 7 pillars of effective governance, which on which the Niti Aayog's work is based. Then what are the objectives? These are all lengthy objectives. I'll just go through them. Objectives of Niti Aayog. The first one is to evolve a shared vision of national development priorities, sectors, and strategies. So, one, what are the priorities of development of the entire country as a whole, of different sectors, and what are all the strategies that have to be adopted? And it should be a shared vision. It should not be confined to only the central government. It should not be confined to only some states of the country, some regions of the country, but it should be a shared vision of the entire country with involvement of all the states, active involvement of all the states. Then second objective is to foster, okay, to promote, to foster cooperative federalism. So there are several states, several union territories, all should work as one unit. So there must be a cooperative federalism through structured support initiatives. Okay, all the supporting initiatives from all the corners of the state, the country, initiatives and mechanisms with the states on a continuous basis. So there should be a cooperation between the center and the states, union territories, among the states, recognizing that strong states make a strong nation. For India to be strong, each and every state in the country should be strong. Then the third objective is to develop mechanisms to formulate credible plans at the village level. So it should not be top down approach. So something is planned at the center, it should percolate to the bottom. No, it should be bottom up approach. So the whole planning should start at the village level. So formulate credible plans at the village level and aggregate these progressively at higher levels of government. Progressively means what? First, the plan should come out in at the village level, then it should be aggregated at the taluk level, then at the district level, state level, and it should come to the center. So it should be progressively at higher levels of government, from village panchayat to the central government. Okay. Then fourth objective is to ensure on areas that are specifically referred to it that the interests of national security are incorporated in economic strategy and policy. Okay, so we should not compromise with the national security. So it is our utmost priority, national security. So all our plans, all our strategies, all our policies should take care of the national security. Then fifth one, to pay special attention to the sections of our society that may be at risk of not benefiting adequately from economic progress. That means there must be equity in the distribution of all the benefits. Okay, each and every section should be taken together in the path of progress. No section of the society should be left behind. Then the sixth objective is to design strategic and long-term policy. So it should not be a short-term vision, it should be a long-term vision. So we should think 20 years, 30 years, 50 years ahead so that we will be prepared for any eventuality, any occurrence in the future. So to design strategic and long-term policy and program frameworks and initiatives and monitor their progress and their efficacy. It is not just preparing the plan and asking some departments to implement it, but Niti Aayog and all the state governments should monitor the work, monitor the progress, and make sure that everything is going on efficiently. So efficacy should also be monitored. The lessons learned through monitoring and feedback will be used for making innovative improvements. So whenever monitoring is done, it is a watchdog activity. Whenever monitoring of the work, monitoring of the progress is done, lacunae is recognized, okay, and improvements are taken up. So it should work as a feedback for the future improvements, including necessary mid-course corrections. So if the implementation is not correct, there is some limitation, then halfway through, mid-course, in the middle itself, it should be corrected, not at the end, so that we achieve the targets. Then seventh objective is to provide advice and encourage partnerships between key stakeholders. So who are all the key stakeholders? Government is a stakeholder. All the citizens of the country are stakeholders. All the business enterprises, industries, they're all stakeholders. So everyone is party to the economic development of the country. So there should be good partnership between all the key stakeholders and national and international like-minded think tanks. So India should not be an isolated entity in the whole world. It should be part of the entire globe. So it should be part of the entire global developmental initiative, okay, as well as educational and policy research institutions at the national level as well as at the international level. Like Niti Aayog, each and every country has its own think tank. a body which thinks for the entire country, which develops all the policy measures, okay, at the international level for different countries. So we should be part of that educational policy research institutions, both at the national level and the international level. Then eighth objective of Niti Aayog is to create a knowledge innovation. Innovation is new development of new ideas, okay? Innovation and entrepreneurial support, all these startups and all such things. Entrepreneurial support system through a collaborative community of national and international experts. So if our experts are good, we'll take their suggestions. If we find some international experts who can contribute to our development, we'll welcome their ideas also. International experts, practitioners, and other partners. Maybe European Union, maybe USA, maybe our SAARC countries, or G7 countries, all those groups, partners, okay? No stone will be left unturned for the development of the country. Ninth objective is to offer a platform for resolution of intersectoral and interdepartmental issues. If there are some conflicts between different sectors of the economy, okay, industry, agriculture, education, rural development, social welfare, and so on, intersectoral, if there are any conflicts, okay, so it provides a platform ಒಂದು ವೇದಿಕೆಯನ್ನು ನೀಡುತ್ತೆ for resolving, to solving all the problems between different departments, okay, in order to accelerate the implementation of the developmental agenda. Then 10th objective of Niti Aayog is to maintain a state-of-the-art resource center. State-of-the-art is a very new one. The latest development is state-of-the-art, which has everything that can be used at present. State-of-the-art resource center be a repository. Repository is collection. Sanchaya, kannadadalli helodadre sanchaya, okay, should be a repository of research on good governance and best practices in sustainable and equitable development. We should always aim at sustainable development. ನಿರಂತರವಾಗಿರಬೇಕು ಅಭಿವೃದ್ಧಿ. Then it should be equitable. It should include everyone, as well as help their dissemination to stakeholders. All the innovations, all the best practices with respect to governance, it should be disseminated to all the stakeholders, all the state governments, all the union territories, panchayat offices, everywhere. Okay. Then 11th objective of Niti Aayog is to actively monitor and evaluate the implementation of the programs. Okay. Monitoring is taking care of the implementation part. Evaluation is checking whether it is as per the schedule. So it should be done regularly to actively monitor and evaluate the implementation of the programs and initiatives, including the identification of the needed resources so as to strengthen the probability of success and scope of delivery. So what are all the resources that are required, where the resources are available for proper implementation of all the schemes and projects. Okay, that should be done by the Niti Aayog. And the 12th objective is to focus on technology upgradation, whether it is agriculture, whether it is manufacturing industry, in any sector, the technology should be upgraded as and when it is available and required. Okay, technology upgradation and capacity building for implementation of programs and initiatives. And the last one is to undertake other activities as may be necessary. Okay, apart from this, if anything else is needed from time to time, it has to be taken up by the Niti Aayog to undertake other activities as may be necessary in order to further the execution of the national development agenda. Whatever developmental activities, schemes, projects that are to be taken up for proper implementation, the other activities also have to be taken up by the Niti Aayog and the objectives mentioned above. So to take care of all the objectives, the 12 objectives that have been listed so far, whether it is being implemented, taken care of, it is the responsibility of Niti Aayog to look into. Then, what are the features or main functions of the Niti Aayog? Hitherto, we listed out the objectives. Now, the functions. Niti Aayog's entire sphere of activities can be divided into four main heads, four main functions. One is design, policy, and program framework for the economic development of the country, for economic progress of the country, designing the policy and the policies and the programs. Second one, foster cooperative federalism. So it is a combination of different states. India is not just one whole entity, it is made of several states. So there must be a cooperative federalism. So Niti Aayog should promote close cooperation among all the states, the union territories, and the central government. Then the third one is monitoring and evaluation. Monitoring is checking whether the programs are going on as per the schedule. Then evaluation is checking whether the programs are being implemented effectively. Okay. Then the fourth such function, important function of Niti Aayog is to act as think tank and knowledge and innovation hub. So it should be the center of all the churning, mantana anta ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. Even in Hindi they call it as manthan, okay, mantana. Okay, so churning of all the ideas and coming out with the cream which helps in economic development of the country, and knowledge and innovation hub. These are the main features, the functions of Niti Aayog. Then finally, with respect to Niti Aayog, since 2015, okay, the United Nations, UNO, has adopted the Sustainable Development Goals, okay, in short form SDG, okay, and India also has accepted it from the beginning itself. Even before the Sustainable Development, Millennium Development Goals were implemented, it was to a large extent it was successful. India was part of the MDG, Millennium Development Goals, okay, and since 2015, the United Nations adopted Sustainable Development Goals, and India is a partner in that. And we'll look into, there are 17 Sustainable Development Goals. We'll just go through these goals. Okay, and Niti Aayog has the responsibility of implementing Sustainable Development Goals also. Okay, in September 2015, the General Assembly of United Nations, okay, adopted the 2030. That is, these goals have to be achieved by 2030. So 2030 agenda for sustainable development of the world. So it is referred to as Envision 2030. Okay, it includes these SDGs. They include 17 development goals based on the principle of leaving no one behind. So, as we discussed in relation to Niti Aayog, no one should be left behind. At the global level, also, the ultimate goal is everyone should be part of the development process. No one should be left behind. The new agenda, these SDGs are the new agenda. Previously, we had MDG, Millennium Development Goals, emphasizes a holistic approach to achieving sustainable development for all. Holistic is including everything, including everybody. So we'll just go through the list of those 17 sustainable development goals. The first one is no poverty. So the aim of the entire world, all the countries, all the members of the United Nations is to achieve no poverty by 2030. Of course, it's very difficult, but at least the goal, if you set a goal, you'll be moving towards that. May not be 100% achievement, but at least there'll be substantial achievement. Okay, so no poverty is the first goal. Second goal is zero hunger. No one should go to sleep on empty stomach. Then the third goal is good health and well-being of all the human beings in the world. Fourth goal is quality education for each and every child in the world. Then fifth goal is gender equality. Whether it is man or a woman or the third gender, everyone should be equal. Then sixth goal is clean water and sanitation. Goal 7, affordable and clean energy. Okay, even the housewives or mothers who are cooking in the villages, they should not suffer in the kitchen because of that smoke. So affordable and clean energy to each and every household, decent work and economic growth. Ninth goal is industry, innovation, and infrastructure development in all the countries, in all the regions of the world, in all the continents. So there should not be a divide between the developed countries and underdeveloped countries or developing countries, haves and have nots, then north hemisphere, south hemisphere, and west and east, and so on. So there should not be any discrimination. So everyone should be involved, part of the development process. Then 10th goal is reduced inequality. 11th goal, sustainable cities and communities. So these days, migration from rural areas to urban centers is increasing, ever increasing, and cities should not collapse under the population pressure. So cities should also be sustainable, ಸುಸ್ಥಿರವಾಗಿರಬೇಕು. Okay, sustainable cities and the communities should also be sustainable. Then the 12th goal is responsible consumption and production. Okay, production of all the goods and services, consumption of all the goods and services, it should be responsible, because in one of the previous classes I think I have mentioned efficiency, equity, and sustainability. Okay, only me being very efficient, being very earning a lot of profit is efficiency. I don't care about others, I don't care about the future. That is efficiency. That was the situation 50, 60 years ago. But later on, we started giving importance to equity. Equity is I should be efficient, I should earn profit, but at the same time, all the others should also be earning profit. They should also be efficient. not only me, but also others. That is equity. But when we talk about equity, we don't give much importance to sustainability, that is about the future. No. But of late, in the recent past, we are giving more importance to sustainability. When we say sustainability, it includes efficiency. That means I must earn profit, I must produce more, and so on. Then there must be equity, not only me, but all of us, and not only today, but also tomorrow. So, all these natural resources, this Mother Earth, it is not just we have inherited from our forefathers. ನಮಗೆ ಬಳುವಳಿಯಾಗಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಹಿಂದಿನ ಪೀಳಿಗೆಯವರಿಂದ ಬಂದಿರುವ ಸಂಪನ್ಮೂಲಗಳು ಇವು ಮಾತ್ರ ಅಲ್ಲ, ನಮ್ಮ ಮುಂದಿನ ಪೀಳಿಗೆಯಿಂದ ನಾವು ಪಡ್ಕೊಂಡಿರೋ ಸಾಲ ಇದು. ಸೊ ಆಲ್ ದೀಸ್ ನ್ಯಾಚುರಲ್ ರಿಸೋರ್ಸಸ್, ಆಲ್ ದಿಸ್ ಅರ್ತ್ we have borrowed from our future generation. So it is in the form of a loan given to us by our children, by our future generation. Whenever we take a loan, whenever we borrow money, it is our responsibility to repay the loan amount along with interest. ಯಾರ ಹತ್ರ ಆದ್ರೂ ನಾವು ಸಾಲ ತಗೊಂಡಾಗ ಆ ಸಾಲವನ್ನ ಬಡ್ಡಿ ಸಹಿತ ವಾಪಸ್ ಕೊಡುವಂತದ್ದು ನಮ್ಮ ಜವಾಬ್ದಾರಿ. So if all these natural resources, this Mother Earth is the loan we have taken from our future generation, then it is our responsibility to hand it over to our future generation in a better condition. Okay? So production as well as consumption should be in a responsible way. It should not destroy the natural resources. Our future generations should not be depleted, deprived of all these facilities. Okay? Climate action. These days we talk a lot about the climate conditions, the atrocities, okay, all the problems we are facing with respect to climatic change, okay, and we have to take collective responsibility. Okay, we have to take all the countries in the world should take collective responsibility for the climate action. Goal 14, life below water. So marine life is also our responsibility. Then life on land, the terrestrial animals, okay, that is also our responsibility. Then peace and justice, strong institutions, okay. So all the rules and regulations, all the policies should strengthen with peace and justice efforts in the world. And the last goal is partnerships to achieve the goal. So all the countries in the world should actively participate, should be partners in achieving the goals. These are the 17 sustainable development goals, and India is part of this effort, and Niti Aayoge has the main responsibility in achieving this or implementing the efforts. Okay. This is in brief about Niti Aayoge. Then I'll move to the next chapter. Okay. That is okay. Loss of returns. Okay. I'll move to this chapter on loss of returns. Okay. That is mainly the law of diminishing marginal returns. Do you remember law of diminishing marginal utility? Law of diminishing marginal utility, it states that
Yes, sir.
as we go on consuming more and more units of the same commodity, the additional satisfaction we get goes on decreasing, ceteris paribus, keeping everything else constant. Do you remember that law of diminishing marginal utility?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
good, good. This law of diminishing marginal returns is very similar to the law of diminishing marginal utility. In marginal utility, we talk about we consuming something and getting the additional satisfaction. When we talk about marginal returns, it is the consumption by the resources, mainly land. What it says is, as you go on applying more and more units of the resources to land, more and more labor to land, more and more capital to land, the additional output that we get goes on decreasing, keeping everything else constant. Ceteris paribus. Okay, I repeat, as we go on applying more and more units of the resources to land or any other resource, okay, the additional output that we get goes on decreasing. Initially, it may increase a bit, but ultimately, the additional output, additional returns must go on decreasing. That is law of diminishing marginal returns. Okay, so law of diminishing marginal returns, it states that if increasing amounts of one input, keeping everything else constant. So you should always remember ceteris paribus, keeping everything else constant. If increasing amounts of one input are added to a production process, while all other inputs are held constant, the amount of output added per unit of variable input will eventually start decreasing. Eventually start decreasing means initially when you apply small quantities of input. Suppose you have 1 acre of land. You apply 1 kg of seed, 2 kgs of seeds, 3 kgs of seeds. If you go on adding 1 more kg of seed every time, initially the output may increase at an increasing rate. Initially, it may happen because you are using very small quantity of seeds. But ultimately, okay, suppose it is paddy, you are applying 25 kgs of seeds. Then you increase from 25 kgs to 26 kgs, 27 kgs. Then the output will not increase at the same rate. It goes on decreasing. Output may increase, but additional quantity of output may decrease. Okay, so that is law of diminishing marginal returns. So the amount of a resource that should be used and the amount of the product that can be produced is directly related to the operation of law of diminishing returns. Okay, how much resources we can use, how much quantity of inputs we can apply, and how much output we can produce, it is related to, it is limited by the operation of law of diminishing returns. Suppose the law of diminishing marginal returns, it doesn't operate at all, adu ilve illa anta itಕೊಳ್ಳೋಣ, then what happens? Suppose there is no law of diminishing marginal returns, then what will be the consequence of that? What may happen with just an area of, say, GKVK campus? Okay, suppose we have only land area, cultivable land area equal to GKVK campus with just so much of land. Okay, we can produce enough agriculture output for the entire world. Okay, with just small sized land holding, we can produce enough food grains for the entire world, because you go on applying more and more fertilizer, same land, GKVK campus, apply more and more and more and more fertilizer, more seeds, more labor, more water, so you produce more and more. But unfortunately, in the nature, it doesn't happen so, because of the law of diminishing marginal returns. Similarly, suppose law of diminishing marginal utility does not operate. If it is not there, one person can consume that is produced in the entire world. Go on consuming, 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 because there is no satisfaction, limited. Okay, so fortunately and unfortunately, it doesn't happen so in the nature. Okay, in law of diminishing marginal returns, we study the factor product relationship. Okay, so one input, factor is input, one input and one output. Okay, one input and one output, we call it as input output relationship or factor product relationship. But can we produce anything using only one input? No. The assumption we make is we keep everything else constant, ceteris paribus. Suppose the input we consider is water, irrigation water, then our assumption is seeds kept constant, fertilizers kept constant, labor kept constant. So everything is kept constant, ceteris paribus, only quantity of water is changed. Okay, law of diminishing marginal returns. So our aim here is to decide what is the optimum quantity of factor or what is the optimum quantity of input to be used. This you will learn in detail. Okay, okay. Somebody has asked a question. Can you explain LDMR with respect to labor? Okay. Now, to produce something, you need some people to work. Land has to be plowed, fertilizers have to be applied, water has to be provided, seeds have to be sown, weeding has to be done, spraying has to be done, harvesting has to be done. So we need people to work. Okay. Now, suppose you have 100 workers and you have 1 acre of land. Can you use all the 100 laborers and produce the maximum? No. You may need in total about 10 or 12 workers to cultivate some crop in 1 acre of land. Suppose you are using 6 workers and you increase the number of laborers or number of workers from 6 to 7, his contribution increases the agriculture output. From 7 to 8, there'll be further increase in the production. But as you go on adding more and more workers to cultivate the same number of acres of land, the additional output that is contributed by the additional laborer goes on decreasing. The total output may increase, but the additional output contributed by that added worker goes on decreasing. Did you understand it? Very similar to water, very similar to fertilizer. Labor is also a resource. Okay, that was by Bhanu Kumar. Okay, now new name for LDMR, law of diminishing marginal returns, is the law of variable proportions. Okay, law of variable proportions also means law of diminishing marginal returns. This you will learn in the in another course of farm management and natural resource economics. Okay, in the farm management course you will learn in detail about all these laws, law of diminishing marginal returns and so on, factor product relationship, factor factor relationship, product product relationship. All these relationships you will learn in the farm management course. I'll just mention the meaning here. Then factor product relationship or law of diminishing marginal returns, only one input, as I mentioned earlier, only one input is considered to be variable. All the other inputs are kept constant, ceteris paribus. Then there is one more concept, elasticity of production. Okay, elasticity of production is the percentage change in output when you change the input by 1%. Okay, I think we have already studied this with respect to law of diminishing marginal utility. Okay, suppose you increase the fertilizer used by 1%, by what percentage output increases is elasticity of production. Did you get the meaning? Percentage change in output due to a given percentage change in input. If you increase the seed quantity by 1%, by what percentage the output increases or decreases is the elasticity of production. Okay, so the percentage increase in output when that variable input is increased by 1% is termed as the elasticity of production. Okay, there is one more concept called returns to scale. The only difference between elasticity of production and returns to scale is that in case of elasticity of production, we consider only one input. Okay, change in one input. But when we say returns to scale, we consider all the inputs. If all the inputs change by 1%, what happens to output? Okay, if only one input is changed by 1%, elasticity of production. If all the inputs are changed by 1%, returns to scale. So land increased by 1%, labor increased by 1%, seeds increased by 1%, then some chemical increased by 1%, water increased by 1%. So if all the inputs are increased by 1%, what happens to output? That is returns to scale. So you cannot change all the inputs in the short run period. Tomorrow, can you increase land, labor, everything, tractors, everything? Can you change immediately? No. So returns to scale is a long-term concept. So everything can be changed only in the long term, not immediately today, tomorrow, no. Okay, but elasticity of production, you're changing only one input. It is a short-term concept. So elasticity of production is a short-term concept. Returns to scale is a long-term concept because we have to change everything, all the inputs, all the resources. Okay, so returns to scale, it refers to the percentage change percentage increase in output when all the inputs are increased by 1% is termed as returns to scale. Did you get the difference between elasticity of production and returns to scale?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Now, returns to scale is a concept applicable in the long run. By adding elasticity of production of all the inputs, we get returns to scale. Okay, what it means is, suppose you change only fertilizer. It is elasticity of production, and it is called, it is the elasticity of production of fertilizer. Suppose it is, say, 1. Suppose it is 1. Okay. Now, second one, say for example, water, irrigation water. Irrigation water, the elasticity of production is 0.2. Elasticity of production of seeds is 0.4. Okay. So there are 3 inputs used, 3 resources used. Say water, 0.2, then seeds, 0.4, and say labor, say 0.8. So 0.8, 0.4, 0.2. 0.8 plus 0.4 is 1.2, plus 0.2 is 1.4. Then returns to scale will be 1.4, whereas elasticity of production of labor is 0.8, of water is 0.2, and seeds is 0.4. Did you get it?
Sir, once again, sir.
Okay. Now, by adding elasticity of production is percentage change in output due to percentage change in one input. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, suppose you increase labor by 1%. If you increase the use of labor by 1%, output increases by 0.8%. Okay. Suppose if you increase the labor use by 1%, output increases by 0.8%. So 0.8% is the elasticity of production with respect to labor. Okay. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, second input you use is, say, seeds. Suppose you increase the seed use by 1%, output increases by 0.4%. That means if you increase the input use by 1 kg, output increases by 0.4 quintals, that is 40 kgs. If you increase input by seed by 1 kg, output increases by 40 kgs. 1% increase in seeds, 0.4% increase in output. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So labor 0.8%, seeds 0.4%, and suppose the third resource is water. Okay. If you increase the use of water by 1 acre inch, 1%, suppose, output increases by 0.2%. That is the elasticity of production with respect to water. So elasticity of production with respect to labor is 0.8. Elasticity of production with respect to seeds is 0.4. And elasticity of production with respect to water is 0.2. So you have 3 elasticities of production. Okay? Is it
Yes,
clear?
sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Now, we are talking about returns to scale. Returns to scale means what? If all the inputs are increased by 1%. Okay. So suppose we have only 3 inputs. One is labor, other one is seeds, and the third one is water. Okay. Only 3 inputs. If you increase all the 3 by 1%, labor by 1%, then seeds by 1%, and water by 1%. What will be the result? output increases by 0.8% because of labor, output increases by 0.4% because of seeds, output increases by 0.2% because of water. So 0.8% plus 0.4% plus 0.2%. So 0.8 plus 0.4 is 1.2 plus 0.2 is 1.4. So when you increase all the inputs by 1%, output increases by 1.4%. Is it clear?
Yes, sir. So, I mean, returns to scale is accumulation of all this.
Yeah. That's what it says. I'll
Yeah.
show you in the next line. Okay.
Okay,
So therefore, returns to scale is equal to sigma summation of elasticities of production of all the inputs. I represents different inputs. Okay. It is a summation. So if sigma EPI, that is returns to scale, is equal to 1, then 1% increase in all the inputs increases output by 1%. It is called as constant returns to scale. If all the inputs are increased by 1%, output increases by 1%, then we call it as constant returns to scale. If sigma EPI is greater than 1, then 1% increase in all the inputs increases output by more than 1%, then it is called as increasing returns to scale. Okay? Then, if sigma EPI is less than 1, then 1% increase in all the inputs increases output by less than 1%. It is called as decreasing returns to scale. So, constant returns to scale, increasing returns to scale, decreasing returns to scale. Is it clear?
yes, sir.
Okay. Now coming to the last slide. Okay. Where we can apply this. Suppose we have increasing returns to scale, then the question will be why should there be ceiling limit on land? Do you remember ceiling limit on land? I had explained it while talking about land reform
Land
measures.
reform.
Yes,
Land
sir.
reform measures. So 54 acres for a family of 5 members, 20% more for every additional member, and maximum is 108 acres that I mentioned. And last year during the COVID period, lockdown period, Sugrivajna, okay, it was brought about and changes were made. So this limit was relaxed. I had talked about this. Do you remember that? So the question is, if there is increasing returns to scale, some people, they argue that there should not be any ceiling limit on land. Okay, so that is with respect to social justice. Then in the long run, okay, in the long run, if a farmer using his savings is able to expand his scale of operation, that is increase the number of acres of land, number of tractors, number of workers, and so on, is able to expand his scale of operation by increasing land, labor, capital, and management inputs, the concept of returns to scale will provide signals regarding the capacity of inputs in contributing to the output. So if there is increasing returns to scale, then encourage larger farms. Don't put limit on the ceiling land holdings. Okay, this is in brief. There is one question in the chat box. Time ups. Okay, bye. Good luck.
Okay, sir.
Thank you. All the best.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Thank you,
sir.
sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.